Hi, everybody. We are back with C'est La Vie, the podcast, and the podcast in which we follow our series, C'est La Vie, which is a web series. And you can find it on YouTube and TikTok. And you can follow the web series and you can follow us here. So we are back today with our podcast. My name is Laura and my co-host is...
I'm Sebastian, and we are going to be talking about episode 2 of the web series today.
Yep.
The making, what we've learned, what takeaways, what advice to give. Just a little bit about the process, right? So,
right.
This episode 2 was called Say Kate's Menopause, and it primarily took place around a doctor's office visit.
Yes.
The
entire episode.
It is the entire episode.
Right. And this is fun to talk about for a couple of reasons. So, every episode will be named Say, which means this is. So, C''est, Say in French. And there's a reason for that, because the main protagonist, Kate, an American, is married to a French man. So, Say for this is Kate's menopause. And this episode, since the protagonist is a woman in her 50s, that we are following through a small period of her life in which she is going through some major changes. And she has a big want and need to feel relevant again, to have purpose in her life. Her kids are getting older, and she's also going through all these hormonal changes, which are causing a lot of problems for her. So she's on this journey to solve this problem.
Right.
And so in this episode, she goes to the doctor. And in seeing the doctor, the whole episode is around her anxiety of going in to see this doctor, getting what she needs, and whether or not the medical system is going to help her, because one of the things that we wanted to address was the lack of knowledge around menopause for women, the lack of support by doctors' offices around menopause for women, or doctors, I don't want to say doctors' offices. There's plenty of doctors out there that have no clue how to help a woman or where to send a woman. The misinformation, the lack of studies, and the lack of care. It's almost like shrugged off as, oh, it's normal, just go through it. But I feel like society's evolved enough that we now know we could do more.
Yeah.
We could do more to ease people's discomfort in life in every avenue. It doesn't just have to be menopause.
Right.
But one of the fun things about this episode was that we transformed a business office into a doctor's office. And fun. The desk was too heavy to move in the business office. So it became the doctor's table. So this set decoration was a feat.
This was fun. And on the lighting side of this, we were working with a ginormous window.
Yes.
That we had to figure out to reflections, right? Like, how are we going to shoot this? We were pretty what do you call it? Crammed in this small little room. Not many angles we could shoot this without.
Well, it was a weird room too, right? So you basically, for the people who are watching, but the people who are listening on podcasts, it's going to be harder for you. But so if you want to see what we're making with our hands, go to YouTube and rewatch this. But so on one wall, it was a window.
Right.
And that window was to the outside, and it was a beautiful window letting and beautiful light, which our original thought was, this room's going to look so good, and this window looks like a doctor's office window because it was partially frosted.
Yep.
We thought this is going to be great. And then the sun was on that side when we went to film in there, and we decided, lighting and camera decided, this is not great.
Right.
This is not going to work. So then we had, after you have the window with one side, and then you had a wall and like a half a wall.
Yeah.
And then the door came in at this weird little angle, and then a nookie on the other side.
That was like it was like a V-shaped
little edge past the door that went to the fourth wall, which really, it was like a polygon inside this office. It wasn't four walls. So it was a wall with the window. It was a wall like L from that connecting down, a wall across, a small wall, which was like a V-shapey nook to a door, but then it went back and came around, and you had this polygon shape in this office, and you had this really heavy desk
in the middle of it.
And by the way, this office was beautiful. Oh, and across from the window was a giant whiteboard. That couldn't be taken off the wall.
No, yeah.
It was too large. It was the size of the wall.
The whiteboard
was shiny.
Was super shiny.
And the
you could see
light,
the window.
And the light coming in the window just reflected everything off and bounced off that and
lens.
Flared.
Yeah.
So we had to
that was a lot of
hang
flags.
stuff up, flags. We put stuff on the whiteboard to make also the wall more interesting. It was a major feat that day.
Yeah.
The desk. So this room, the other reason we like this room is because the other rooms had some sort of like kind of indoor-y, outdoor-y carpet in them, right? And this room was actually a hard floor, which we thought was better to serve as a doctor's office, especially
Felt
since
more sterile.
Yeah, and you see the floor because Kate throws these tongue depressors and we see the floor and when they land. And I think that one of the things for us that was happening was, so this was the main office of D at 5D Spectrum. It's her office. And she graciously moved out everything. I'm talking a giant 2-screen Mac. Like she had a Mac and
huge
a second
monitor.
Screen. Yeah, second monitor. All this, like everything off her desk. She moved out. She was so amazingly accommodating. She helped us so much on this shoot.
With everything. I mean, not even just that. It's like air conditioning, in between
shutting
takes,
it off,
turning it on, turning it off.
She AD'd. Yep, she fully AD'd. She was amazing.
Awesome.
She was amazing. And so once we worked out how they were going to light it so there wasn't this glare popping off the white wall, so we set dressed the day before the shoot on a Friday. Renata and I did. And we did some rehearsals. And I was there a week earlier bringing furniture into Dee's office because the other thing was, yeah, she had sort of a waiting area that you came into, but it had no furniture. People would walk in and it had like a little table there, but she didn't host people sitting in her waiting room.
Right.
So if she needed a couple chairs, she'd pull out a couple folding chairs. And we're like, this is a doctor's office in Newport Beach, California. These people aren't sitting on folding chairs. I went all over Craigslist for weeks on end and bought nice chairs and got two
comfortable.
Yes, I got two chairs of one type, two chairs of another type, some other furnishings. We moved some stuff around and made it look like a high-end doctor's office. But the other thing is, thank you, Anna Brandt Photography, who, by the way, did all my children's baby photography. So if you're in Orange County and you want an awesome maternity baby photographer, check out Anna Brandt. She donated beautiful photos, stunning photos of pregnant women and babies.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't photos. Let's go beyond. They were giant printed, framed pictures that we hung on the wall. And because she does all this photography and gets model releases on these, we were able to just pick them up and hang them without any other work.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have to get releases to show these on camera, nothing. They were already fully released photography.
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
And it made that studio look, that business office look so professional. Because I was there then the day before, and it didn't have any of that. And then when I walked on the set the following day, it was like a completely different place. It looked like a doctor's office. It felt like a doctor's office from the magazines, sitting on the table, which, there's the whole little bit with knocking it over and disturbing that horrible, deafening silence. Right.
The serene little office where everybody's sitting quietly. Nobody's talking very loud. And then suddenly Kate drops magazines everywhere, of course. And
super fun.
Yeah.
That was a fun episode. That was a very smooth episode to shoot.
It was. Unfortunately, that weekend was so smooth that it sort of screwed us up for what was about to come.
Totally.
Rains
that was weekend 2.
Right, and it was a long weekend, so we were shooting another episode on Monday, which we'll talk about later. But the episode we were going to shoot, then it poured rain, and we couldn't, and we switched gears very fast, and it sort of worked for us. It didn't end up working out the way I really wanted it, and I ended up reshooting that episode with a different director, based on just having a desire to have something else.
Totally.
So nothing wrong with what the director did, but it really wasn't anything about her choices. It was way more about, as actors, myself included, I wasn't prepared for that episode. I thought that episode was going to be shot, and none of us had memorized our dialogue, and it was an entirely dialogue heavy episode.
Super.
The whole episode was in one location. Mm-hmm. We never left the room, and it had a lot of dialogue. So even though it had movement, it had a lot of dialogue. But so back to episode 2 in the office, we had extras.
We had some fantastic. Some of them drove from Orange County to Burbank. Mm-hmm. We had some fantastic people, and with really great little moments too. Yeah. They had, their little dialogue about, I saw it on TikTok, and these super funny things that felt, natural, felt real. It gave these extras a little bit of reality, right?
Well, in reality, so there was technically 2 what I would call extras, and then there was the woman Diana Lauren Jones played the young woman in the office, and we knew she wanted to have a partner, and the partner was just going to nod his head. And I called in an actual actor, Max Calder, that I know. Let me rephrase that, because obviously actors who are extras are often actual actors. They're not just, there's a few people out there just wanting to be an extra, but most of them are actors as well. But what I'm saying is I called in somebody who's a working actor and stunt performer, and I wanted to make his day worthwhile for something for his reel. And we went in a couple days before that shoot and added dialogue. Yeah. Deborah and I added
super
dialogue.
Funny.
And
it took a lot of us on crew by surprise. To not laugh.
About the vagina jokes.
The vagina jokes. Those were hilarious. Yeah. Because we didn't have that script, that version.
No, because we
had
did it
no
last
idea
that
it was coming. And we were like, okay. Quiet on set, super it was super fun. Yeah. But
so we wrote it for him, and Max did a great job.
Yeah, he did.
And, yeah.
That was a fun day.
It was.
And even our nurse.
She was amazing too.
She was fantastic.
And Dee's office has this weird thing.
That door
it has this weird little you gotta watch the series to see this stuff. So we should post some pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're here on we're talking this out right now, but once it goes to editing and we get it up live, maybe you'll be seeing some pictures here.
Yeah.
There's this little alcove between Dee's door of her office and the actual lobby, and it's just a mini office. It's this mini entrance.
It's such a weird space.
Dee explains it as it used to be because that used to be a different office, and they broke through the wall to take over more space in that office.
Interesting.
Even so, that other office still exists, but it was the bigger space. But during COVID, the people didn't want that big space. But Dee actually had a lot more work, and so they took over part of their space and pushed the wall. I don't really know where the division is. Not that that's super exciting to this, but so there was this weird little alcove, and there was a door. And I never know what to call these, but it's like that. It's like the barn door or the grandma's apple pie door, like where the top opens, right? And the apple pie sits on the shelf cooling. The I Love Lucy had one in her house.
What do you
her
call
back
that?
door. It's a double. I don't know. The top and bottom open. You could hook them together, or they open separately.
Not a barn door.
It's not a barn door. But the top and bottom can open, and there's a lip in between.
Yeah.
So we opened the top, had her stand behind the half door
with her iPad,
and the ding 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 and all that there, and there was a desk behind her because that was her.
It looked like a processing center, like to check in, and that's what we used it as.
And that's what we used it as.
The check-in area. It was great. It came out really nice.
But the other thing is, Dee is very artistic. She plays music, and she had all the office all of her office has different colored walls, except the one we chose to use as the doctor's office, which makes the most sense. It was all white, but all of the other walls, she had a purple painted wall.
Purple, blue.
So she had white walls with a big purple wall for the waiting room area, which was nice. That played off as a good space to make it look like a high-end doctor's office.
For sure. And
because it's OBGYN. That's a little bit different than your clinical, I'm going to see my, primary care physician.
Primary care physician.
Plus, I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but in this area of Orange County, you're going to Hogue or these places. Most of these doctors' offices are a little bit decorative.
For sure. Very.
Right?
From anything, it's like, it's an experience.
Yeah.
But when we were when we first got to Burbank, and we had quite a bit of equipment for Burbank.
We rented equipment.
We rented quite a bit.
Because we didn't have any of our own lighting yet. So through this process, I found it would be more economical for me to buy lighting. I didn't buy a big amount of lighting. And after Burbank, we had lighting at first that you brought in.
Yep.
Because you were in film school.
Yes.
And you had access to lighting. And you brought in lighting. But that first holiday weekend, because school was starting, I think, right after that, or had just started, you didn't have access to lighting yet. So we had to rent all kinds of stuff. Did we? We rented.
We rented. I mean, I didn't have access to. I had lights. I had 3 lights.
Right.
And we needed like 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you had. I'm gonna buy those things that Ashley brought. Those cube lights. Those are amazing.
Ashley, yeah.
Those things are
fantastic.
like perfect for when you're like, it's just dark in a spot, and let me get this little square thing under the actor's face and throw some light at him. And the other thing I liked about them is they were small enough you could hide them really easily in between stuff. As long as the thing that you were hiding it wasn't.
And they have magnets, right? So we were like magneting them to the door frames anywhere.
I don't know. Maybe you did bring lighting that weekend. Did you?
I brought lighting that week. I had
so
2
what
kids.
Oh, that's right.
We rented flags and C-stands and
apple boxes, stingers.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Which is your long extension cord.
We rented. I feel like we had. We had Renata's
dolly.
That's
her homemade dolly.
Yeah, that's her.
She should talk about that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
And then we had a lot of equipment in Dee's office. Dee's office is quite interesting. It's entry, and then there's that little weird alcovey office we were talking about in Dee's office. But then after that entry, it goes down into this more narrow hallway, and then there's an office with a window and another office with a window. And those were great for our episode 6. And then there was a kitchen, and that ended up playing in episode 9. And then there was another office that luckily didn't have windows out to the hall, and that person was an active person in the office that could shut her door. Then there was another office that had an active employee in there that could shut her door, but that was also a very large office where Dee happened to keep her filing cabinets, and they let us film in there as it being our filing room.
Yep.
And then there was
episode 9.
Also episode 9. And then there was another office that we used as the holding green room, which was very large, and it was also where we cast.
Yeah, that was fun.
And that again didn't have a window, but weirdly, these 2 did, and those windows played really well in the episode. I think we'll need Franklin on set for our interviews, which sure. I'm sure you'll see some interviews.
Stay tuned to see Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's a moment.
Yeah. So let's get back into episode 2. So it took a lot of set dressing. We rented equipment, so that was kind of a little bit more expensive of a day than
Yeah. I think from the crew's perspective for episode 2, it was interesting because we were fighting these ginormous, beautiful windows that were either extremely helpful or extremely not helpful. And these finding ways to light rooms with extremely reflective surfaces, and it played a challenge at moments for us, lighting specifically, right, in these weird shapes and ways we can put lights and stuff and keep maintaining continuity. Lighting wise, it was a fun challenge. It was a successful challenge, but a challenge nonetheless. And I just remember Ashley McPhee and I really taking a second to, how do we do this without getting tons of stuff up?
What's interesting is that episode, I feel like that environment, the way the lighting could be played without getting, once you got it up to where it wasn't getting caught in camera, I feel like those episodes almost provided better lighting than some of the ones
for sure
in the house.
No, it was beautiful. And I remember a really, really fun shot, and that was on the dolly. We started from this narrow hallway in the back, headed towards the front door in this wide shot. And we had our nurse at the check-in area and that weird door thing. And then, a line. And Kate was in that line. And then all of our waiting
other
room
actors,
patients. And it was just such a dynamic moving shot where the dolly was moving in and we were seeing all these actors, waiting, having their own little moments. And then we come into Kate, and the door opens and makes a bell sound and checks in. And it was just this very dynamic, lots of movement, camera movement, but, knowing from behind the scenes there are 9 lights hidden in that shot that we couldn't see, and figuring all that stuff out, because when you add movement, you're adding
the chance that you're going to see a light or a boom pole or a crew member.
100%. And so that was a really successful, really cool moment for us on crew when that came off successfully, and we were like, oh my gosh, that came out really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I really liked episode 2.
The BTS photography from it's really great too. We had a BTS photographer for about half our shoot, Nawoko Kato, and that photography is wonderful. So
yeah, it came out really fun.
Yeah.
Check it out on my Instagram. I posted with some of that BTS.
Yes, awesome. Mine too. Vinci Productions. And C'est La Vie, hopefully by the time this comes out, will have its own Instagram. I need to get to work on all that. This is stuff I don't love doing. This is the problem with a no budget project, is I have no budget for paying somebody to do all that, and then that leaves the work just to me. So unless I can find somebody who's just dying to do social media for free.
I'm sure someone out there. But I would like to know a little bit more of the inspiration maybe from your side of things with, in previous episodes of this podcast, we talk about kind of the underarching themes, right. of what's going on. And I think, it, as funny as it is, this huge episode, the scene with this doctor, it is super important. And there is some really real, really cool moments within it that shed light on situations that doesn't get too much light. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, what I would say is, so, depending on what Deborah and I are writing, we write in a similar process, but sometimes a little bit different. And I would say that every episode of the prequel, as opposed to the series. So in the series, she might have taken an episode, I might have taken an episode. We write until we get stuck or we want help or whatever, and we switch it off with each other. In the prequel, I wrote every episode to start and then would send it to her for her help. This was an episode that just completely came out of me very fast. I wrote it very quickly, and it was written based on literally, I'm not joking, the dumb things that the doctor I had at the time said to me, the way I was treated, the lack of ability to get decent health care, nobody understanding what I need. I don't know. At the time, I finally told the doctor, fine, I'm not coming back to you, and went and found a new doctor and also an OBGYN, people who could help me. At that time, she had an assistant who had been saying, oh, we could get you, if you need help, maybe you need HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Maybe you need this. And yeah, we could do that. And I was strung along for 2 years to hear out of the doctor's mouth in one visit, oh, I can't do that for you. I don't believe in it. And so I had been strung along. So finally, that doctor said, go find an OB for this. So I did. And, but we kind of made it like, so that was my experience with that doctor. Then I went and found an OB, and my experience of being in the waiting room at the OB was just really uncomfortable at my age to walk in, because the OB, I knew I wanted an OB from that. I had to find one within my insurance group. I had to find one but I knew I wanted someone that looked like she was my age, and I wanted to read the bio and see where she went to school and so I went on to this. I went on a search. So when I found her, I knew that I would probably be able to talk with her, and she would give me the real scoop on hormones. And so the problem is, she was an OBGYN, and she was in a large group of OBGYNs. So I walked into an office with a very large waiting room full of pregnant women and women with like little babies just born. And here I walk in my 50s going, there is nobody my age in this office. And so that's where I took creative license and made the original doctor like he's an OB but GYN, but I'm looking for, he's telling me to go to another one who believes in hormone replacement. So I kind of took those two experiences and took creative license and put them together into one doctor and episode. And, I feel like one of the best things we wrote was when he says, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. There's pregnant women out there.
Yeah.
Because that's how you feel when you're going through what I was going through. Like, nobody cares. Again, we're invisible. We're all this. And you feel like they only care about that, the younger people or whatever's happening. So the episode did come out of real situations, right. But no doctor said that to me. I took complete creative license on a lot of things that occurred. And there was moments where Kate kind of lives out a fantasy of what she would like to say and do. And I'm not going to spoil it in case they haven't seen the episode before this podcast episode.
Watch the episode.
Watch the
fantastic. Episode. I want to touch on something for you. How was it working with our doctor actor?
Our doctor actor
was
that fantastic. Was one of my best days on set. Yeah, I have to tell you, that was one of my best days on set because he not only was a good actor, he had this incredible voice.
Yes.
So he had been a voice-over artist, and he had he had done all the voiceover on the Dr. Phil show for 20 years. So I guess I don't know what that entailed. I don't remember.
I remember talking to him, and it was like the introduction, we'll be right back,
all that kind
cutting
of stuff.
To commercial and stuff.
Yeah. So he did all of that, but he had the most unbelievable, low, I don't know, baritone or voice. Right. It was low, but it wasn't too, it was just the right grovel. Yeah. And his dad had been, I believe, an opera singer, right? Is that what he said? And so we're in the middle, and you guys the lighting was an issue. It took a long time.
Yes, it was.
It did not bother us at all.
No,
we turned the script into a musical. Yeah, and he's singing his lines, and I was like, we're doing all kinds of stuff in between. That he was just a very easy person to work with. I really wanted to interview him for this. He's busy. I think also just in general, he's not a social media guy. He's not but his name is Christopher Hatfield, and he was fabulous. Watch the episode.
Yes.
It was so hard to cast the doctor because I had 4 people I loved. 4 people I loved. And when it came down to it, it was like, I was literally sending you guys
Oh yeah.
the auditions tapes that I had recorded on my phone saying, help me decide. And ultimately, one guy, my second choice, he was so amazing, but he was younger and not so young, but younger and looked younger. And so we just kind of were like,
oh, it would have changed.
The vibe.
Totally.
A little bit. And so we're like, no, okay, he's going to go because of that. And then one of them came off a little too caring, actually.
Those sides were hard to be caring.
And then it was like, okay, we're going to get rid of him. Like, he was too, like, agreeing that I had those symptoms and all of that instead of dismissing them. And then there was one that we really liked, but he almost seemed too mean.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Christopher rode this line, and I'll tell you, it's the same with Annette playing Tegan.
Oh my gosh.
They rode the line of like, I'm this, but I'm not so that you hate me.
Just enough for you to come back to the doctor's office another time.
Right.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, he was great. I wish there was more of him in this show, but he has that.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is very much revolves around you and him and that.
Almost the entire episode.
Time.
The first part of the episode is me in the waiting room with a lot of other characters, and then the rest of the episode is me with him. And the dream sequence is different in this episode. I'm not going to go into it, but it's different.
Oh,
so there's
true.
We're not cutting to any other location in that episode. That is one of the episodes.
That's true, right?
Full location, just like episode 5, one spot.
Yeah.
So it was a really
successful, beautiful episode.
It was.
Just like, even just the synergy of everyone.
Yeah,
too,
I mean, I don't know how I would have him back because I don't know why Kate would ever go back to that doctor, but
maybe
I
for
would
a
have.
musical.
Listen, I would just have him back to be something else.
Totally.
And just disregard. Like, I've seen plenty of shows do that. We'll just disregard that actor was the doctor in another episode.
No, he was that.
He was
fantastic.
really good. And I'll tell you what it was that made him be able to ride that line. He was dismissive, but you took it as his dismissiveness was because he was under pressure.
Yes.
He was in a hurry. He had a bunch of
pregnant
patients. The pregnant people. So whatever. So you took it like he just didn't have the time, but he wasn't really a bad guy.
Right. No, I totally saw that when I got to watch the rehearsals and stuff, because there was not a lot of room for crew to be in that room with you guys acting.
No,
so there were very few people.
They were
that
crammed
actually,
up against one wall behind a camera.
Yeah. No, there were like 3 people in that room, including the director.
Right.
Director, DP, sound. And lighting.
And we did have Ashley in there a lot. We had one light because we were having to move it
all the
around.
Time.
Because then you're shooting this way, but then you got to get him on the computer while hidden in that corner when they were shooting this way was a light. It had to be moved.
It was funny because I had to slate everything, and I was walking in, slating, coming out of the doctor's office, closing the door, hiding behind the door, waiting to hear cut, and then coming back in and do take 2.
Yeah.
But it worked out well. It came out beautiful, I'm sure. I'm excited to see it.
Footage I saw again in the back behind the scenes photography is great.
Oh yeah, no, that came out super, super beautiful.
Yeah. So and lessons I learned. I'm always trying to, as we do this podcast, reflect to help anybody like, hey, what is something that happened on set for me that maybe I can shed some light for you making your project. And I would say in this episode, the really only issue we faced was that lighting. Mm-hmm. And that we solved it.
We did.
Not really me. I was singing at the time. That's okay. I was off singing my dialogue with the other actor pretending it was a musical. I did not mess with the lighting at all. When you told me to stand somewhere, I did. And this is funny because, okay, so I wrote this. I produced this. I'm sort of in charge of this whole thing.
And
but once I'm an actor and somebody's like going, Laura, stand over there.
You gotta go stand.
I gotta go stand over there.
Yep.
I don't got no hat that tells me I don't gotta go stand over there.
Yeah, that's true. That was a dynamic too. right, is like when for you, and from my perspective, watching you have to switch on, so many different hats,
Yeah.
so many different jobs, and manage all of let let alone everyone, but just remembering continuity, writing on the fly, you know, like talking with the directors. It was a very few people can do that.
Oh, thank you.
And so I think that's you deserve much more credit than people I think understand how much went into that from
Thank you. It was at times when I'm working with people, I will tell you, you felt like people didn't really realize what I was doing,
Yeah.
what it took. I did have, though, a really, I think, easy crew to work with. So people, we didn't have any really attitudes. We didn't have any really,
Right.
any issues. But I do think that the newness of the crew, they didn't quite understand what was on the line
Of course.
for me. And in reality, it was all for me. So even the other producers on set didn't. They did some producing, but they didn't really put money forward. They might have gave me a location or given me something else, but ultimately, I was responsible for everyone's schedule, for everyone's everything, and I tried to remove the producer's hat once cameras were rolling,
Yeah.
and I would pick it back up at the end of the day. So therefore, there were times when I would have loved my co-writer to be an actual showrunner and be there, because I would have liked somebody to be able to step in, because as actor, sometimes when I did step in, there were certain situations with certain directors where they felt as though that was taking away their
creative freedom,
which I'm sorry to say, this is a show, and the creative control is within the writers.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't an actor speaking up. I was the writer speaking up as the showrunner. And so, and then sometimes I tried to like let go, and then ultimately I will tell you that in the end there were some things that I wanted to get that weren't done because I did let go during the times I was trying to film. So it was a very hard line to ride. I think it would be an easier line had I had, this is so awful, money.
Of course.
So when you're paying crew and paying certain people, they listen differently.
Of course.
They behave differently. And if I had money, I would have flown my co-writer out because she lives in Portugal. But she also has kids too. So I'd been taking her away from her kids. We shot over, again, with budget, I'd have shot this in 4 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. 4 weeks, back to back, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. And maybe slightly less. Whereas this was so spread out, I couldn't ask her to come from Portugal for 2.5 months or something. I could have maybe, I guess, flown, if I had money, I'd have flown her back and forth, right? But in reality, she couldn't be here, and I didn't really have, I had advocates, some more quiet than others, and I'm not saying I had a lot that I had to advocate for, but sometimes I did need to advocate, and it was sometimes I walked away from it rather than deal with the stress of it.
And I think like you were saying, like the kind of the newness of the crew, there was a fire, a spark behind everyone for sure, wanting to learn, eager to learn, but there is that, learning curve. In the beginning, it was like, that's not how we do things. This is how you do things. And, towards the end, it was like, we have it down. We know how this show's going to shoot, how we're going to shoot it, how we're going to do it, the lighting setups. When we were going back to the same locations, it started getting more and more efficient. But, yeah, just time, right? It's like...
Right. Well, and I would say something for new crews, too, is that this crew, most of them had never worked with an actual Hollywood crew.
Yeah, true.
So you could be a new crew in Hollywood, and if you've been on a full real set, you've seen the hierarchy and how things go. And I'm not saying that anything was problematic for this crew, but there were just some things like our one actor had a real big problem with the talking because it's a teeny set. In a big set, the crew could walk 20 feet back and talk to each other. But this was a teeny set, and when you're acting as actors and people are talking over there, it's interrupting. Sometimes you're not able to focus. Just like a few minutes ago, the dog made a noise, right? And we kind of both were like, I
What do
saw
we
us
do?
both stiffen
Yeah.
up. So it's one of those things where they don't really get that. They don't really know that. It's also a lack of really understanding the ability to make yourself like if you're available that day and you know the timeout is this time, you don't schedule something right after. You
Yeah.
keep your availability because you never know when something's going
For
over.
sure.
You have to, it's a lot of things like that are little things till the moment comes when you actually need it. And I will say there was a moment where something went wrong on set, and we'll talk about that when we get to that episode. But that the crew did step up and have a conversation, say we're all here, we're going to stay the rest of the night and finish this.
For sure.
So you weren't actually here.
I wasn't there. I heard
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and they all had a conversation and decided we're going to stay. Long past their call cutoff. There were other times when we needed something and people were like, "We're out the door," and that's something I think that they're going to have to learn. And who knows? Maybe Hollywood's changing. But when I worked on set in Hollywood, the crew didn't dictate. I've got plans. I'm out the door. It may be different now because people are trying to
For sure.
be more cognizant of people's real life and their time on set, but I don't think it's something that really has changed. You have these insane shoots, especially with film, much less so with TV.
Absolutely. I think, everyone's so excited to be part of Hollywood, to be part of
Right.
a set like that. And for me, I learned so much more by being in it, by doing it, figuring it out. Okay. The light looks bad. Figure it out.
Right.
I have no one to fall
That's the
back
best
on.
way to learn.
That's the best way. And I learned so much, and I've taken it to every project I've been on since, right? It's just, okay, well, don't complain. Just do it. Like, fix it.
Right.
And, there were just so many of those little things, those unspoken rules of being on set, of the hierarchy, of the, what goes down, what to ask, when to just figure it out. Don't ask questions, just do it.
Right.
Those things, those are extremely valuable moments that you only get when you're on a production.
Right. Well,
you can't be taught that in school.
No film teacher. I mean, there's a whole argument from a lot of people. Why go to film school?
Of course.
Why go to, yeah. And, I say you go whatever path leads you. Like if film school's your path, but besides film school, you get to have free access to equipment. You get to play.
Yeah.
And you get
It's
to,
practice.
my thought is though, don't listen too deeply. Just listen enough to the professor to get the grade and get yourself out. But don't take
not
their
set in
rules
stone.
so
Yeah.
set in stone. Because they're giving you a set of rules, but they're not on sets every day.
Right. And then you also got we got to remember that this is an art form, a collaborative art form, right? Not one person can make a TV show, not one person can make a movie. But
People have tried. They're not usually good.
They're not good.
Not usually.
But you can you have to have that collaborative aspect. You have to be able to communicate your vision, your goal, how you're seeing thing, how the director's seeing thing, how the writer has envisioned it when they were writing it, depending on, and the respect associated with, if I'm brought on as a director, what on a film, right? I'm expected to, one, have an extremely comprehensive understanding of what we're about to do.
Right.
The project we're about to work on. And I should have the majority of answers ready to go if you have questions. But then two, kind of the director, what says goes. And not questioning, maybe suggesting better versions or more efficient ways, but not, oh, that's horrible. No, that's what we're shooting. Whatever. And you agree when you agree to do the job. You agree to be part of that machine.
For me, I like a collaborative process. So I'm okay with people asking questions and saying, hey, I've got an idea.
For sure.
Hey, listen, we changed a whole meaning of a line. in episode 7 because the director saw it meaning something else and it was written a different way. And the key actor who was acting those lines, he felt it meant what the director thought it meant. And I was flexible and I changed it. We had a little discussion. But what I noticed was some people were super uncomfortable with the discussion because the director's loud, I'm loud. Nobody was really fighting, but I saw some people were just high. And the actor, he was loud. And I was the other actor in the scene. And some people, that's the other thing. I think you have to allow yourself to experience conflict and deal with conflict and work through conflict.
Yeah.
And I also think it behooves, like as a producer, and I'm hoping more directors are more collaborative, but there's plenty of directors who are like, no, I have a well-oiled machine and your idea right now, I'm never going to use it anyway, so I don't want to hear it.
Right.
And then there's other people who are like, I'd like to hear your idea. Maybe that's something of interest. And then I heard Kevin Costner talking today about that's exactly how he works. It's like he's already got the plan. However, at the end of the plan, like he's going to shoot this scene, he might have room for play.
Right.
And then listen to other people. But he's really well oiled in the way he thinks it should go. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Aaron Sorkin, you follow his words directly. I don't care if you mess with my words as long as the meaning of my sentence and my joke doesn't get ruined. So
yeah,
if you transpose my words or you change the word from you paraphrase it, I'm okay as long as the exact word that was, if there was an exact word that was the joke, then you need to say the exact word. So episode 8, the guy says, free your piggies. The next line has to be when the character said, he has to say, my piggies are free. If he says, when we see his sock is torn, my toes are out though, that doesn't hit the joke. I need it to be my piggies are free.
Right.
But there's other times where you can paraphrase something and it's okay. Or you can sing it like a musical. Which would be fun. C'est la vie the musical.
C'est la vie the musical.
But I think we covered pretty much everything on episode 2.
That was a successful episode.
I think so.
I like that.
I can't wait to see it. It's in editing right now.
It's in post.
I'm
excited.
Exciting.
So
but by the time they hear it,
it'll be out.
It'll be out.
So
go
it's
not
watch that.
Post.
Go, go watch it. Let us know. I really want people to engage and ask questions.
And I want people to subscribe to our YouTube, but also our TikTok. Because we will, every episode, you can go over to TikTok right now and find the episodes in smaller bits.
Right.
If you don't want to watch a full-length 12-minute episode, you can watch it in smaller bits. And our after the shows will be there separated. You can stay here and see the after the show on this podcast. You're going to hear it on the audio version and you're going to see it on the YouTube version, but you can find it separately as well.
Yep.
If you want to watch just it or watch it again.
Awesome.
So, and go to sayloveytheseries.com or vinciproductions.com and message us.
Yeah.
Email us. Put in an email request. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. Bye.